All right, welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. We're gonna just kind of hold on here while YouTube and StreamYard talk with each other and get that going. There we go. Now they're talking to each other. Everything going well. All right. Welcome to the Rabyd Atheist. I'm your host, Ed Raby, a former pastor turned atheist, now a compassionate anti-theist. Welcome to my channel. This is Rapid Fire, where I answer questions from the chat. So if you have any burning questions from the chat, this is the live stream that's not afraid of fire, hellfire or otherwise. So because it's pretty good, there's a lack of evidence that those things exist. So, but thanks for everybody for coming out. Here we go. Let's see who's here. John was here first from Holland, the old home country for me. I need to really visit. I've been to Amsterdam, but it was a 2-hour layover on a flight, and I never really got out to see Holland or Amsterdam or any of the lovely Dutch countryside. And I definitely want to see all the stuff someday. It's my European tour dream, but I haven't gotten there yet. Let's see, Fred's here. I'm assuming Australia's still there then. Lisa's here. And let's see, Alex just showed up. Good. All right. Fred started a question. Oh, Cranky showed up. Outstanding. Always nice to have the elder god in the room. But Fred started with a starter question. If I had never had to deconvert and thus don't fully understand the pain and stress deconverting inflicts, what are the best and worst I might do in trying to help? So there's that. I think I can deal with the worst. I think if you've never had to deconvert, and I run into this with a lot of atheists that have always been atheists, they don't understand the emotions involved of leaving a religion. And I think the worst thing you can do is minimize it and say that it's not a big deal. To somebody in faith, they have a lot of emotional investment in what happened to them, depending on how long they were in the faith, what kind of faith they were in. It can be very emotionally traumatic to them to suddenly discover that everything they've based their life on is crap. So the worst thing you can do is think it's not a big deal. Okay. I think that's the worst thing that you could do. It is a big deal to them. And because you've never been a person of faith, you are going to have some things that you just do not understand about it. I think the best thing you can do is, I think the biggest thing I see with people deconverting is they want to ask their questions of people who have been through it. That's why, like, Deconversion Hangout is one of the best streams I have, in my opinion. I love hanging out with people that are deconverting and asking questions about it, because then you can kind of address the issues. But addressing their issues, if you're a friend of theirs, being a good friend at that moment. Don't be like the Christians and try to convince them to come back. I think that's probably obvious. But yeah, it's don't minimize it, but at the same time, a listening ear can be all the world to these people and at times going, hey, well, yeah, I never got into that, but I absolutely understand the stuff that you're going through. I think that's, it's like don't minimize what they're going through. Everybody's going through emotional stuff. And when somebody's going through emotional stuff, you definitely want to make sure that you're being supportive and not being a dick. Okay. But the rest of it, I think most of the time I just listen to people tell their stories. They want to tell their story because it's, to me, every deconversion story is a liberation story. So it's good stuff. And it can be heart-wrenching. But yeah, see, Wolf is here. Okay, well, that's what cranky elder gods do. They lurk. So they lurk. Hey, Anne Marie, good to see you. It doesn't exist. It's a figment of people's imagination. Okay, fair enough. Hey, Paul. And then Wolf. Good evening, Wolf. Michael Wolf. Yeah, Alex, the hell doctrine comes up a lot with me. And I think I know it's a weird thing to say because intellectually I dismiss the idea of hell even existing very, very quickly. But when you grow up in a fire and brimstone preaching church like I did, it's hard because, they use the fear factor with that, and that's trained your emotions to be that way. But it does get infuriating when people who still believe want to still use it on you because there's still that emotional connection. Like rationally, they can sit there and talk to me about hell, and I can tell them, go to hell. And, but it's like I don't buy the logic of hell at all. I mean, I took a class in seminary called Hell: The Logic of Damnation, and that was done by Jerry Walls. And Walls's conclusion was that hell was inconsistent with a loving, merciful God, and that was controversial on campus. So, and he graduated from Notre Dame, so he got his PhD from there. So he had a very interesting view of like the Bible just presents something else entirely, and that's part of the problem with the doctrine of hell is it's emotionally manipulative, and at the same time it causes those practicing philosophy and philosophical theology to have to do cartwheels to make the logic work. So yeah, see, Anne is kind of giving a more typical deconversion story is that you move from one thing to another, you try things out. I've seen people like literally try every religion. Other people have tried every flavor of Christianity, and they end up with the same. They end up. Deism kind of is a stop along the way for a lot of deconverting people. Well, maybe there's a God. It's just the Christians or Islamic folks got it wrong, and so it tends to be um, one of those stops on there. But I eventually realized it's kind of like a rational person trying to still keep a religion, and that's where I got off of it. But yes, I am absolutely going to hell to a lot of people. What bothers me the most, Alex, is I'm going to hell to a lot of people who love me, like my family. Like, if they're honest about it, then, dad or grandpa or their son is going to hell. Okay. And that creates relational problems with my family from my point of view because uh, I think that's stuff and nonsense now. It's like, can you give me a picture or video of hell? Okay, that's not made up. Okay, like, do you have any evidence for this place called hell? No, somebody told you from a book that it exists, and so therefore you believe it exists. You accepted it without any evidence whatsoever, and that's kind of the problem. It's um, it's a sore spot for me because I know even though they may not mention it, it's like that's kind of this gulf or barrier to our relationship is their faith. It's not my end, just I look at it from this point, when I die, it'll be the end. Okay. I will cease to exist. And it's been a good run. I've always loved the way Christopher Hitchens put it, I've got finally enjoying the party, and then somebody taps me on the shoulder and says it's time to leave, and it's like, um, and then you're done. And I like that ending better. All things end, and I think from looking at it, it's the right thing. It's to me, experiences are just better. And so the hell doctrine gets in the way of good relationships with people that are of faith and don't. And it bothers me immensely in my own life, for instance. But yeah. I'm great, Paul. And I can't speak for everybody else in the room, but I'm doing fine. I had an episode yesterday. Before I forget, I want to apologize for the abrupt end of the Stoic Atheist yesterday, but I had that closed in psychosomatic feeling at the end, and you can watch that end of that stream, and you can tell I'm having trouble putting thoughts and sentences together. I have episodes like that every once in a while. It usually means I'm overloaded. My neurology is overloaded at that moment, and it's starting to short circuit. And so I had to kind of cut out early to avoid that, because if I short circuit, I'll pass out or I'll come close to passing out, and then that's not a good situation for me. So I do apologize for ending quickly. I noticed that there was a lot of good discussions, and I actually apologize directly to one person for sure. But yeah, for that. So that's how I'm doing. I feel a lot better today, though. Prove another dimension exists too, Alex. That's a great question. I'm like, okay, it exists in another dimension, so you can't see it. That's suspicious. I can see that, Michael. I'm getting to the angry old man part. I'm not an angry. I've never been an angry atheist except at the beginning. Um, I don't get angry about theism so much as I shake my head about it more. I feel sad for people more than I get angry at them. It's not the worst. I would say Islam is worse. You can get killed for leaving Islam. I'm not sure if any Christianity still kills you for leaving Christianity, but Islam will. So there's that. Hey, Triple E, good to see you. I hope you're doing well. What's your favorite religion atheist joke? William Lane Craig. There's so many. I don't know. I can't recall a joke off the top of my head right now, but I more look at. I don't remember if I have an atheist joke. I mean, I guess I like the rabbi, the priest, and the thing on the golf course, and they're trying to figure out how to divvy up the money they got from a charity auction, and the Catholic priest draws a circle on the ground and says, "We'll throw all the money up in the air, and whatever lands inside the circle goes to God." And the rabbi says, "Well, why don't we do the bigger target? Everything outside the circle goes to God." And then I can't remember who the last guy. I think it's the atheist says, "Why don't we just throw it up in the air, and whatever stays up there, he gets to keep." That's one of my so. But yeah. But if I have a favorite joke right now, it's William Lane Craig. After watching Paul Agea's about it and part of his interview, it's like, seriously, dude, you've lowered the bar even lower. And I just laughed. I couldn't believe it. So, yeah, we get angry because, so I don't know. It makes you angry because you got fooled so long. This is why I'm in therapy. So I still have stuff that I get over. As a former pastor, I also gave a lot of bad advice to people based on my religion that didn't really help them. In fact, it might have made things worse. And so I have guilt about that. And that's not something easily to get over. So, yeah, but William Lane Craig is my favorite joke. But I watched Paul Agea's video with Mr. Deity yesterday, and it was hilarious. But he's like even lower bar bill now, because he's like literally saying, all that evidential stuff doesn't matter. It's the witness of the Holy Spirit. And so it's completely experiential to him. After all these, he's basically admitting that apologetics doesn't do shit. Okay, which is fine. I've said that for years, but he's like all that stuff. Well, for evangelistic purposes, well, yeah, that's kind of the flipping point. Yeah, proving something true. So yeah, it's even lower bar. So he did an interview with Alex. Oh man, what's the guy's last name? I just know him as Alex, and that's a question he asked, and William Lane Craig is just like, no, it's I have the witness of the Spirit. I don't need anything else. So yes, even lower bill. Yes, it really does take so little of your time to be an atheist. I mean, if you don't learn an atheist YouTube channel like I do, it's like if I didn't feel compelled to do this, which I do, I would have so much time on my hands. My Sundays are free, my Wednesdays are free. I get to keep all my money, so. No. Yes, this is one of the most liberating things, Alex, is being able to do other things on Sunday. I I watch football without guilt when it's football season, and I sleep in. I don't have to get a sermon ready. For me, as a former pastor, it's even more liberating. There's just a whole bunch of shit I just don't have to prepare for anymore. So, so there's that. Yeah, first you have to believe. Okay, there you go. I don't know how many atheists it takes to replace a light bulb. Probably one, because that's what it should take. Yeah, that's true for a lot of people, Paul. Don't feel unusual. I get angry every once in a while still too, but it's just not a steady state anymore. Yeah. I liken Alex, I've likened losing your faith to grief. It follows similar stages to grief, because in a sense you've lost a friend. God used to be your friend and now he's not your friend anymore because he doesn't exist. And so it's very much like mourning and grieving over a loss, losing faith. The stages of grief are very similar. So yeah. Hey Ronald, good to see you. Yeah, I have much more time to think now. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Um, I'm very focused on deconversion and getting things done like that. So, um, helping people. I guess I still have that sense of pastoral heart, I guess, is like I don't, autistic as I am, and sometimes I'm like, I get very much like some of the memes I've seen over the years. Every once in a while, I'm like, my gosh, there's just too many people. We need a plague, you know? And then I take that back because I actually do care about people a lot. I just have a really hard time expressing it. So, yeah, he does a lot of that stuff, but in his most recent interview, I guess he went even lower as far as lowering the epistemological standard. He doesn't think there needs to be an epistemological standard for relief. So I think that kind of puts him in the pre-supper camp. Like he just presupposes because of his, heart being strangely warmed, as Wesley put it, by the Holy Spirit, which it's really amazing to me that people accept personal experience as evidence because, you know, one, all of these religions claim a personal experience. I can get a personal experience story from every religion under the sun. That's why they believe that religion is true. So obviously, you got to find a way to adjudicate between these experiences to determine which one is the truth. Um, it's I honestly, Michael, he's not the best. I don't know. There's a lot of apologists out there. I would now say like inspiring philosophy used to be good because it seemed like he was a genuine seeker at times, but now he's just a shill for Christianity. He's gone full, con artist, in my opinion. I mean, like, he literally has taken step backwards in his philosophical understanding and some of his arguments. But he's the thing with Bill is he's got the educational creds. It's just he doesn't use them. Okay, it's like I was disappointed in him long before, like some of his debates that he had. I'm like, what the hell? Like, he debates the history of the resurrection with a historian who doesn't believe that Jesus was a real person. He believes he was like Hercules and stuff like that. And the debate is really poor because the guy brings up all these great points about historicity and how history is done, and William Lane Craig just sidesteps them. So there's that. I actually did flirt with Odinism. That's why I still wear the necklaces, and I still, because it's the religion of the old world, and it's like, why not? Okay, and I had already examined. I literally did a comparative religions class in my church, and so I had time to like look at all the religions. Of course, I had to come to the conclusion that Christianity was the best one after looking at all of them. But yeah, after a while, it just got. I just realized that religion all has the same flaws. It's like there's so many assertions that they make without any evidence, and you have to accept so much on faith. And faith became less and less of a virtue to me over time because I see how it could be used. A good virtue to me, as somebody who practices virtue ethics, is always something that leads to some sort of good. And I just don't see faith leads to good all the time. So there's that. When I was a Pentecostal preacher, yes, I had a morning service, an evening service, a weekday service, midweek. And in my one church, I actually had 2 midweek services. So I had 4 things that I had to get ready for every week. Kept me busy, but after a while, I got really good at looking at a passage of scripture and coming up with 3 points in a poem to preach. I literally could do my sermons probably in an hour. Okay, I could write everything on an outline form an hour, and I often didn't use the outline. So, yeah, you might have a very correct observation. JP is overeducated versus than okay, yes. Yeah, so good to see you, man. What took it for me was figuring out that humans are pattern seekers by nature. Learning this about myself made me real has been hooked doing it. Yeah, what religion does with our pattern seeking is it taps into it. It creates false patterns that actually don't exist, but we resonate with that. Ritual is a big thing that keeps religion going. There's a reason why the religions that have lasted the longest have probably very good extensive rituals like communion and baptism and holidays and stuff like that are definitely all part of that. It feeds into our pattern seeking nature, and we like stability too. So churches tend to be that way. So yeah, I had a busy schedule, and I was the only one. I was a senior pastor, and I was the only pastor in all my churches, pretty much. I was on staff once, and I was the only staff too. So there was the pastor and me. So, um, I mean, I guess it's kind of feeding into that agnosticism versus atheism debate in one sense that some people don't want to give up on the idea of a creator God, but deism doesn't do you any good personally. It's God winds up the universe and then lets it go and then walks away. He has no concern over it. He has no, there's no loving God in deism. There's just a God. And so I don't know. I kind of discarded it after a year because I realized that it had religious aspects to it that couldn't be proven. It was making a lot of claims without evidence as well. And so, I mean, I became an atheist because I really don't see the evidence for God anymore. There's no good evidence. People give evidence, but the evidence is usually shit. And deism has that same problem. Okay, so like if I ask who is the deistic God, I'm going to get 100 different answers, just like I would with Christianity. So, uh, I don't have a problem with spiritual people. I'm actually working on a video about atheist dating, and one of the things I have to point out in that video, and this is a little teaser, I guess, is it's stuff I want to remember as I'm dating. Okay, is there's a really good chance that anybody I date is going to have some sort of spiritual beliefs, even if they're not like full blown Christians, which is a deal breaker for me anymore. I'm using Hinge, and that's one of the things I like about it is I can like, now this is a deal breaker for me. I'm going to be, and you know, but I have to realize that there's a lot of people out there that are spiritual or have different kinds of spiritual beliefs and all that stuff, and it's not a deal breaker for me. I get people that are going through that because I went through that too. It's like, well, maybe there's some sort of spirituality, deism, spiritualism. And I was still in the pulpit, so I had to keep a lot of my seeking on the down low with that stuff. Oh, that's a tough one, because there's parts of the world that are still very theistic, um, and they're hard nuts to crack. A lot of the work is done for us by the internet, and there's just places in this planet that don't have it still, and I know that's hard for some people to comprehend. But there's also areas of the world that are still very religious. Latin America is still very Catholic slash Protestant Pentecostal, like in high percentages. You also have Africa is still highly religious. If they're not Catholic or Muslim, they're like animistic. They have their nature religions. The Far East is still very religious. The Chinese claim that their country is completely atheistic, but I question that. So I think they overblow the numbers. But I, as far as an international strategy, I don't know if you can have one per se. When you look at atheism, it's kind of grown incrementally wherever it's been allowed and not been persecuted. It's grown because you're able to say your piece. I think we need more content creators. The problem with that is rationality rules, you know, election. The problem is a lot of the good content creators and the smaller ones like myself, we just don't have the funding. There's just not the funding available to do what we would love to do and how much time we would spend to it. The people that promote Christianity have deep pockets. The Catholic Church has deep pockets. A lot of these Protestant, they have deep pockets. And so Kyle, we have to overcome all that. And so we're left with a lot of volunteer, sometimes promoters of anti-theism. Um, it's a powerful thing, in the sense that we have to find a way to get people to realize that religion is a big problem. So it's a hard one. So yeah, first but worst attempt. That's a good question too. I don't know what spiritual means, because like when I talk to people and they say they're spiritual, I ask them to define it, and every time I do, it's like there's like 10 a different definition for each person. It's almost like each person, spiritual kind of means to me like each person has their individual woo. Okay. And so yeah, I think if there was a God, I don't think he gives a damn about human morality, and I don't think he gives a damn about good or evil. He's just creating stuff, which is really weird. If you have this all-powerful God that just creates stuff, what's his motivation? I mean, I guess I could ask, a local elder god what his motivation for being an elder god is, but I don't know. They don't let you breathe, leave. Yeah, holidays do that. Yeah, they all have their own explanations. That's the thing. Triple E is like whenever you ask somebody who's spiritual what they mean by that, they've got their own view of it. Yeah, I mean, given where you're from, I guess I can understand. I mean, because you're in Russia, right? So I can understand that. Culturally, things are different. Um, in the West, we tend to have this open, like in America, in the United States, the idea that you get to pick your religion has fostered so many religions. So it just doesn't end there. I don't. Yeah, I agree. Oh, there's a lot of things that are a reach. They have to be. Marriage is kind of the way they keep propagating their religion. You got to have kids. Um, I could go into long stories as a Christian education pastor how we spent so much time talking about children, more time than I wanted to now that I think about it. So, Cracker Atheist Edition. That'd be interesting. I didn't believe there is a God, but I'm still very interested. There might be one. There's no proof, only apologetics, and apologetics is basically shit. Yes. And that's the thing. I think the idea of atheism is repugnant to some people on an emotional level because it really does mean there is nobody on a white charger coming to save your ass. And that's a scary thought. That you have to there are situations where you have to take care of yourself, but it also is an honest thought. So I think the reason people stick with religion is that emotional need to think that there's somebody that might save their butt if they get into too big of a problem. That's one of it. But some people fear death. Um, it's amazing as an atheist, I fear death very little. Okay. I don't want to die before I get certain things accomplished, but if it happens, I won't have any thoughts about it afterwards anymore. So it's not something really that I fear anymore. I fear more not living life to the fullest, the one life I get. So yeah, it's getting together, organized. And the problem is there's so many different factors in that. And the atheist community is divided on a lot of issues. So, politics, social issues, all kinds of issues. So it has its own obstacles as a movement, trying to push back against theism. And it's why I've taken a compassionate approach to it, because it's like I try to reach out with my humanity to people that believe instead of just, needing all the rest of it. So, yeah, as a pastor who experienced a lot of people, and I would agree with you. It's suffocating. Lots of people with fake smiles pretending they're happy. Because if you don't put on that mask, they'll start to annoy you with questions, and you don't want to be annoyed. So, yes, I think Ronald, this might actually help. I think the kind of anti-theism you need is kind of the stuff that I do. I think this is why I've taken the tactic I've taken, because it gives, this gives a platform for me to address deconversion issues. And when people see, oh, deconverting people are just people like me that are struggling with their faith and they've decided to go a certain direction with it, then it puts a human face on it. I think that the biggest thing that's been done to atheism is the dehumanizing of it has been very successful. And it's why I try to be as transparent as I possibly can, because I want people to see that atheists are people too, just like they are. Um, they're not evil. They have morals, and countering all the bullshit is basically what we spend most of our time doing. So they make accusations and we say, no, sorry, that's bullshit. So there's that aspect of it. So maybe. This is true. And atheists tend to be very literalistic in their interpretation of the Bible. And the reason they're that way is because it illustrates the absurdity so well when you're very literal with the Bible. And then I always love the apologetic. Well, you can't be literal with it. Well, then how can you know anything for sure? Okay, because now you've made it completely subject to whatever interpretation you want to give it, and then they don't seem to realize the problem of that. But yes, Christians, I don't know the Bible as well. Hey Dave, how you doing? Good to see you. Appreciate you stopping by, man. Any toasters in our future? I want to know. I want to come to streams that have toasters. Hey Earl. Yeah, I feel you there. Felt that way this morning. Finally home. Good God. Actually, I think that's the way we started out, Louis. As I recall, biologically speaking, our buttholes develop first before anything else. So it generally proves that all human beings are assholes. So I saw your video. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, though. I want to sit down and sit back and enjoy. It's not very long, though. So I have a tendency, BS, to really think that your videos go down better with some form of whiskey. So I may have to start grabbing a bottle of whiskey just for that purpose. So let's see. Spiritual clairvoyant had power through prayer. Yeah, I was a Pentecostal, Ronald. So, I believed in words of wisdom and words of knowledge that, I could get direct revelation from God, that I had the power to heal, that I had the power to do miracles. I mean, it feeds your ego pretty good, some of this stuff. So there's that. They are. They catch heat every once in a while for some of the things they do, but in the end, they're the one and only group I know of that FFRF is like, they're the one group of lawyers that will take this stuff on legally and know the law about it. And I think that's one of that's so so there's that aspect of it. So, but yeah, I got mad at Dillahunty when he was starting yelling at him about something they did with trans. And I'm like, this is not the time. We need FFRF's resources more than ever right now. So there you go. That's a good answer, as well. I'm sure BS will appreciate that one too. Yes, the annals of time. Yeah, there's this your friend with a holy deity. What can be better than that? I mean, you are friends with with the Almighty. What a sales pitch. That's a great sales pitch. Uh, I'm a I'm a libertarian, so I'm more free market. Um, I view the government as a referee, but most of the time, the referee doesn't stay a referee. On the one hand, he'll accept bribes, and on the other, he picks winners and losers. So when I look at the government, I'm asking the question: does this policy pick winners and losers? Is it the government accepting a bribe? Okay, I don't let the government off with morality either. So, but yeah, but so when it comes, the less I believe in regulation as far as keeping people safe and you know maybe not exploiting others. It gets difficult with religion because I prefer to keep religion free because then they're free to do their bullshit and the numbers keep turning down for them. So It's a backdoor conversation, the stuff about buttholes. Okay. Yeah, I wonder about that, Lee, because I had a professor at Ferris who was a Jew, and he went to services, but I'm like, dude, you like are the most un-Jewish Jew. But he says, well, I go because they consider wine to be sacred, and I'm down with that. So, oh, yeah, you have to take it literally. um, I don't know. Why would I I think I get with Bertrand Russell on this issue right here, where I look at people and say, why would you want to believe something that is untrue and not proven? What good can come from that? It's why I'm an anti-theist, mostly because I don't think falsehood leads to good things and can lead to a lot of nonsense. And so my pushback usually against that is, why would you want to believe something that you can't prove? Okay, it seems kind of silly. If that's the case, if I can't prove a belief, I might as well believe in any deity I want to. Okay, I mean, you still have to have some sort of evidence, even if you believe that your belief is true compared to other beliefs, too. Okay, like what makes you believe that your experience or your religion is better than the other religions out there? I think that's a very valid question to ask somebody that does this. Like, don't you want evidence compared to other religions? Forget, you know, why do you think your religion is true compared to others? You have to have some sort of a epistemological and evidential framework to make those claims. Like, if you think Christianity is true and Islam's a lie, what is your evidence for that? Okay, so it's not easy. Yeah, atrocities that God commits are also a good one. Okay, maybe I'll show up. All right. No toasters, but we'll make some up. We can always make up toasters. Maybe I'll just break out mine. I haven't used mine in a while. So I may break out my toaster and have toast for the occasion. Yeah, but once again, what's the evidence for that? I mean, you can sit there with deism, and I think I've mentioned it already in this stream. Like, what good is the God of deism? He doesn't do you any personal good. He wind up the universe and walked away. It's like, but what evidence do you have that that's true compared to the other religions? I mean, I the biggest proof to me that God doesn't exist is the varied opinions about him, and nobody can seem to come to an agreement. So, yeah, I think most of us atheists are at this point. I need convincing evidence. Okay, otherwise, I'm going to go my merry way and do what I want to do, as long as I don't harm anybody else and all the other stuff. It's just like, I'm going to pursue my own happiness and my own freedom. So, yeah, well, then there's no good reason to believe it at that point. Why would I believe in something that doesn't have convincing evidence? It's like, if if you're dismissing every other faith because it doesn't have convincing evidence, then why is it wrong for me to dismiss yours because it doesn't have any convincing evidence? If you don't believe in those because of no convincing, why do you believe in yours that also doesn't have convincing evidence? That seems like you're just picking and choosing because you want to. Okay, so uh, well, all of those questions can be questioned, can't they? Like, um, self-esteem. I don't know. I don't know. I can prove, I guess, that I have self-esteem to myself. You can have evidential things that to yourself seem good and evidential. Hope for the future. I would say I don't necessarily have hope for the future. I hope for the best for the future. Um, I tend to be very optimistic about humanity, despite what they do. I mean, we keep moving forward. So I think there's an evidence that we've faced crises before and still here. I mean, some evidential standards are better than others, and some things we're going to have better evidence for. Trust of people. I think I developed trust as an autistic person. I don't trust easily, and people have to really prove themselves to me before I trust them. So, oh, you're talking about now, yeah, but Diaz. I think I've covered that. Yeah, I'm sure cranky elder God would agree with that. If there's a God, he's kind of chaotic and irrational. Um, I don't know, maybe all the power has gone to his head and made him crazy. Uh, uh, yeah, I used to be that way, Earl. I think the ministry cured me of that. um, there is a point even in autism, I guess, where you switch over to the other way. Like it really takes a lot because you get burned so much, and eventually the emotional burning catches up to a point where you just like you don't trust people until they prove it. It's why I think it's why you see a lot of autistic people. I can't speak. I don't know the statistics off the top of my head that later in life they become very like myself. Like I'm extremely introverted and I don't go out much and I don't. You guys are my community, so it's because I've reached a level of distrust that it's like a complete flip over. It's not like a gradual I don't trust people. Like at some point I straight up went from trusting people and getting burned with it to I'm not going to get burned anymore, so I'm not going to trust at all. There comes a point where that happens, and I think that's happened to me. So it's why I'm in therapy to try to recover some of the ability to trust people because it's hard to function in society without doing that. So, um, and so I think that's where I think I've seen that research. I can't remember where I read it. I wish I did, but it's like there comes a point where an autistic person just says "fuck it," okay, basically, and I'm not going to trust anybody anymore, and it gets to be a very lonely life at that point. So, uh, yeah, yeah, I'd have to agree, Michael. Too, I can see the practical advantages of trusting people, but it's my painful experiences that lead me to say I don't want to trust anybody anymore. Um, it's hard. It really you have to jump through a lot of hoops with me. So, and it's unfair to that person to do that. They might be a perfectly fine person that I could trust, but it's like past experience kicks my ass. So, now Norse pagan when I was a Christian. Uh, yeah, and that's. I mean, if you're going to use there really isn't any evidence for any good evidence for any religion, but I am this religion because I've chosen to be so. I guess I can buy that logic because you're just like randomly um doing stuff. But the problem with that is it just makes all religions equally fallacious. So it's like, pick one. Okay. So, but yeah, I mean, I studied Norse paganism as a kind of hobby. I like the mythology, as obvious. Many people have known me for a while know that I love Norse mythology, and I find it more entertaining than the Bible. I'll give it that. So, and there's a lot of things you can do with it. And the beauty of Norse mythology, nobody ever really gets too pissy with you about changing it. So, as evidenced by the Marvel series and things like that. Good F. Good to see you. Yeah, I have to Michael, I have to literally say, okay, it's okay to trust this person or try to trust this person. I have to say that to myself, um, because of all the shit that's happened to me. So I have a hard time even trusting sometimes my own family because of it, and it's a problem. So, um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced about a lot of things, and one of the things I'm not convinced about is that I can trust human beings. So evidently, I don't have a lot of faith sometimes in them. Yes, if you're going to make extraordinary claims, give me some of the evidence. Eh, oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. See, I see. I'm still dealing with the faith issue because so many people want to hold it up as a virtue, and I'm just like not convinced it is anymore. So, but yeah, yeah. Let's see, see if there's any other. It'd be a good question, Cranky. What about the elder gods? Do you think that Cthulhu is onto something? Oh, it's my favorite moment sometimes when I get to reading some of the fiction is when people realize there's stuff so big out there they can't even begin to fathom it. Like there's moments when human beings get to these points where it's like, wow, that's too big and terrible to even comprehend. And that feeling that we have, I think, is very interesting. So, yes, Cranky is one of these elder gods. And so he is, I, I don't know, he's different, and I like him for that. No lives matter. Yes, exactly. And really, there is a lesson in that, Paul, because in the grand scheme of things, nihilism does rear its ugly head. Like long term, I just don't think that it all matters. But I think it matters to us because we're living in it and we're existing in it and we're trying to make the best of it. But yeah, I found that meaning means a lot more to me when I understand that to the universe, none of our lives matter. Okay, like the universe does not give a shit. Okay, so are you sure that's what she said there, Cranky Elder God? Or was she referencing some other tentacle? I'll just put it that way. Yeah, I know. That's the thing. I do find myself trusting professionals that study things. Like I'll trust my doctor. I trust the professionals I deal with. I trust scientists that have actually studied something for quite a length of time. Um, so yeah, it's I think I because I've become more skeptical, I trust expertise more. Like, and I have to watch that because just because somebody's an expert doesn't mean that they actually know something about everything. It's my one complaint against apologists. Like, a lot of these apologists have degrees in philosophy, but they talk astrophysics, they talk biology, and they are absolutely out of their field at that point, and they're just talking like anybody else at that point, and people put them off as experts, and they're not. Um, so I have to watch that too. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think life is worthy. I'm excited for my children as they continue to grow and develop. I'm excited for my grandkids too, because I they're going to see things that I will not, and I hope they're good things. Okay, so they're going to go on to the future after I'm long gone, and I hope that what they see is even more glorious and wondrous. So, you like noodly appendages there, Earl? Cranky says he has one for every occasion, so there we go. Um, I guess even without my Christian beliefs, I can see the reason to have children. I suppose having kids, I don't know if it's a step of faith so much as it is our desire to continue the human race. It's just built into us. But uh, since I've had grandkids, I can see other reasons. Um, Not that I think that my lineage will go on forever. That's just nonsense. But I do get a lot of joy out of watching them discover the world. Like, there's these moments where they come to new understandings and the light goes on in their head, and it's just so. But to each their own, I guess. What's a nice way of telling him to stop? There is no nice way of telling him to stop. Um, the problem with Seven Day Adventists is the ones that are evangelical tend to be worse than some others. Like JWs and Mormons will beat them out, but the problem with the Seven Day Adventists is they like trying to live in both the Jewish world and the Protestant Christian world at the same time. So, yeah, well, there you go. Teach their own. Oh, not a problem, Triple E. I'm here for this. My favorite streams are this one and the deconversion hangout, where we just get the bullshit together, talk about deconversion, and if I can help people along the way. I'm no expert in this, but I've been through it for a while. Um, Next month is May. Let's see. So May 27th, it'll have been 10 years that I've no longer been a Christian. And in June, it'll be 9 years that I have been an atheist. So I've been doing this for a bit for myself personally, and I've been on this channel now, moving into my 6th year. So it's that's what I'm here for. So I and I'm just gonna tell you, I don't think there's a good way to tell him to F off. You may just have to tell him to F off. Like, this is not going to change my mind. Please don't send me this stuff anymore. But he may not listen. So is it valid because it doesn't have a mother language, which is so stupid? I don't. Kyle, I would have to agree with you. That's got to be the most bullshit thing I've ever heard. Doesn't have a mother language. What the hell is a mother language? I mean, does Hinduism does Hindi have a mother language? And it's like I don't understand that. Does it have to have an original language that it was originally written in? Is that what they're talking about? If that's the case, then they really I don't know that they can make that claim either. So, oh yeah, they're definitely a cult. Yeah, I would definitely treat them that way. Mother tongue would be like I guess what they would be referencing, like Judaism has Hebrew, as its mother tongue. Hinduism has this very early form of Hindu of language. I don't know. I don't know where they get that, but it's kind of a silly reason to say that it's not a real religion. So, yeah, you're still full of questions, aren't you? So that's fine. Come here and ask them. I'll be glad to give you my best answer. But I get you. I remember when I was that way. I was still in the pulpit, and I was like, it was the hardest time of my life, to be honest, to be doing a job that I no longer believed in. So it's one of those tough ones. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what that would be, that view. Let's see. I could tell her my life was going to be an average guy. I think I wanted a couple of children to possibly something for to accomplish more. And the jury's still out. Both asked me. I think I feel that way about my kids too, Ronald. All three of my kids, in certain ways, have surpassed me. My daughter is a wonderful human being, is raising five kids and just doing a great job. The Christianity aspects bother me, but she's very loving and very patient. And her husband loves her and loves the kids, and you can see it. So I don't have as many problems with the Christianity aspect of it. Bothers me, but my I can see in all my grandkids that they think for themselves to a certain extent, and so that'll be a conversation for a different day. My oldest son is certainly surpassing me in lots of ways. He's a head football coach, although now he's at a Catholic university, so it kind of, it's a good gig financially. So I'll, I don't know how to feel about that. And my middle kid, he's settled down to be just an average guy who loves people and dogs. So, and he works a job. He takes care of the people he cares about, and I wish he'd take better care of himself. But other than that, so I ended up doing something right, Ronald. I don't know how, but I did. um, I don't know how that is. I always go for the truth claims and whether they can be validated. And so far, zero. So, yeah, ancient Hebrew. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of cults there. I would say all religions are cults in certain senses. Yeah, me and Ronald are kind of on that same page. Some are more evil than others. Yeah. Yeah, you deconstruct for quite a while. Um, I'm 40 years a Christian, 20 years a minister, still trying to figure shit out. They do. Catholic priests still do study Latin because some places in the world it's still Latin liturgy, and other places you can do it in the local tongue. Oh, that's knowledge I wish I didn't know. So yeah, you're probably going after the smart people. Then is that why things are getting worse? Because all the smart people are being eaten by the elder gods. Their brains are. Yeah, that's the other thing about deconversion, Earl, that I don't think I deal with as much. But there's a lot of woo, and woo can have the same effect on a person. You know, there's tons of atheist channels out there, and there's at least two or three I know of that they didn't come out of Christianity. They came out of like some sort of spiritualistic woo, Wicca, whatever. And some of those groups still have, like leadership, and they have their cultic aspects to them, and people still are trying to shake that off. So I can absolutely see what you're saying. because I think religion in general has that effect on us where we, um, it does that. So we're all connected by energy nonsense. I don't know about that. Scientifically, that might be true, but it's not the energy they're talking about. So there's that aspect of it. So I don't know, but we'll see. Yeah, I guess I could see that. I mean, I think as a former Pentecostal, I get that more because I believed in a lot of woo associated with my Christianity. So I guess it's part of the deconversion aspect for me, Earl. It really is. So, but yeah, I can see it. Oh man, it's yeah, it does feel like a truism, but it's wacko. I get that part. Yeah, we're all. It's a nice romantic thought, though, isn't it, Earl? That we're all connected by this wonderful energy. Yeah. Ugh. Oh my gosh. See, my growing up days are now I look back at them. It's a combination of not realizing what I was to certain extents, um, and also, a lot of the woo of Pentecostalism mixed in with pastoring. So a lot of the pastors I dealt with was like they just didn't really appeal to me a lot of times. So I don't know. I kept my distance from a lot of pastors. Oddly enough, when I was growing up, um, didn't always like them, the ones we had. So probably the negative was I just didn't have people that I trusted that much. So yeah, saccharine, kumbaya, and stuff. Yeah, but I can't really say that I have a good answer for that because my autistic self was probably keeping I didn't understand the social construct of church when I was a child very well. I just knew that they accepted me and for who I was and didn't try to make me into something else. So let's see. A coworker telling stressful things in my life are occurring because I stopped believing in and mocked Yahweh. This bothers me. Well, I would tell him then, thank you for describing your God as being an abusive piece of shit. Okay. Because that's what abusers do to try to get back people that they say they love. Okay. If God's bringing about bad things in my life saying, you better come back to me or it's going to get worse, that's exactly what an abuser says to an abused spouse. Okay. If you have a partner that's abusing you, that's the kind of shit that they do. You better come back to me or I'm going to make it worse. That's abuse. Okay. Thanks for letting me know that that's your perception of your God. Um, that he's an abusive prick. Okay. And I wouldn't be nice about it either. Um, because to me, that's got to be one of the most stupid. I mean, it's like your fear, it's a complete attack on your fear. So it's like, I don't know what else to say. It's like, damn it, don't do that to me. So yeah, I as far as the legalities of it, yeah, they're not really allowed to talk. I tell people to avoid talking religion around me because there's a lot of legal trouble with that. So yeah, it can be considered workplace harassment. They're not supposed to proselytize at work. You're free to tell people not to try to proselytize you at work, and if they continue up, you can report them. So, um, Yeah, they're not allowed to do that. You could report that too, and they can get in trouble for that. That's a violation of your civil rights. You have the right to go to work without being harassed by religious people. I open the Bible. I do that all the time. Theists don't like to come here because I talk about their evil God that kills babies. So they'll sit there and say it's always objective, morally objective that you shouldn't kill babies. And I say, okay, well, thank you for admitting your God is objectively evil. So, I mean, there's so many ways, Kyle, to do that. Just open the Bible and read. And you won't get too far into it. Like the global flood has got to be one of the most evil events that's passed off as a good thing. It's like killing all of humanity just because, oops, that's not even a smart plan. So, yeah, you either put up with it or you report it. I wouldn't put up with it. It's like, nope, done. Yeah, and if that's the case, then yeah, the relationship's kind of over. And but you don't have to go to work and experience that kind of thing. That's illegal. So yeah, at that point you get a lawyer. If they don't do anything about it, Triple E, then you get a lawyer, and that lawyer can inform your employer what's going to happen to them if they don't do something about it. So yeah, HR, don't talk to them until you get your lawyer first. I would agree with that because HR will always try to smooth things over under the table, and they don't want the legal hassle. The legal hassle is what they're trying to avoid, and that's your leverage. So I don't want to. I know you don't want to hurt them, but you don't have to go to that situation. Yeah, you got to take care. Yeah, I mean, don't let people abuse you. Um, don't let people use religion to abuse you. That's just not cool. I mean, it's one thing if it takes place like off of employee grounds, but you're there to work. Um, I've had to deal with that a couple of times. Like somebody wants to talk. There's a few people of my coworkers that know about this channel, and every once in a while they want to talk about it, and I'm like, I don't want to talk about that at work. Okay, come to the channel and leave a comment. Yeah. So uh, you can have really decent coworkers, but they shouldn't be doing that, and they need to. My guess is if you reported this, he could be told, "Hey, you can talk to this guy or whatever, but you need to stop doing the religious part of it. You don't have to put up with that." So yeah, I mean, I get it. I mean, and I know a lot of folks are getting after you in the chat. Triple E, I'm going to tell you this: you've gotten used to, because of Christian forgiveness, letting things go. And what it does is it diminishes your own humanity. And you need, part of deconverting to me is recovering your own humanity. And part of that is being respected. I'm dealing with an issue at my own work that doesn't have anything to do with religion, that does deal with respect. And I'm struggling with it too, because I have a tendency to just let things go. Well, that's my training from my religion, to let things go. So make sure you understand that part of this is learning to stand for yourself. Okay, that your feelings and you have value. You're not a sinner. Okay, you're a human being that should be respected for your humanity, if nothing else. And that's something that, it doesn't mean that they're going to necessarily get in super trouble or lose their job. It just means that they need to be talked to about respecting your boundaries. Okay. And part of deconverting is learning to establish boundaries and having people respect them. So I'm trying to I get it. So, but I mean, I have good people that I work with too, but there are certain things that I don't want to talk about at work. And religion is one of them, and politics is the other. So, and neither one of those, they shouldn't be using any of that stuff to bully you. So, yeah, This is the issue. I Killed Earl hits it. He just needs to be talked to by somebody that this is not okay to talk about, okay, anymore. You need to stand for yourself, Triple E. You're valuable. I mean, but yeah, because if you don't do it to him, he'll do it to somebody else, and he'll do it to other people, and it's just not okay. I mean, you could do what Ronald said too, is, hey, dude, I don't want to talk about this stuff anymore while I'm at work. You can say that, and if he still does it, then it's time to report him. He won't lose his job, but he needs to be told by somebody, hey, you can't talk about this stuff. Yeah, I get that, but you got to stand up for yourself. Part of deconverting is learning your own value again. It's been stripped from you. This is one of the reasons why I'm a compassionate anti-theist, is religion strips people of their value to themselves. And it really, Christianity is the worst, one of the worst, but it's like, you got to get that back. Okay. And part of that is incidents like this where you say, hey, man, I don't want to talk about religion anymore. Okay. So, and then but part of what religion does is it strips you of this care for self. You have to sacrifice yourself. You have to sacrifice this, and you need to get over that. Triple E. You got to build yourself back up. So, thanks, Earl. I appreciate that. Because by saying you're a sinner when that's not true, you have good value. Triple E. You have ideas in your head though that diminish your value. Okay, and Christianity does that, is one of the worst for doing that. But learning to stand up for your own feelings about things, it doesn't mean that like you make your feelings God, but it's like you have to, you lose your individuality in the religion, and you're an individual that has the right to go to work and not be harassed by religious people. And it's a form of bullying, and I would say that you need to stand up to it because you shouldn't be bullied. You have inherent value as a human being. The problem with the whole sin doctrine is it diminishes us. It makes us think that we're worse people than what we are. It's one of the most cruel jokes that a lot of religions plays on people is, you're going to find your true self in this, but then they talk about breaking yourself down, and that's not good for you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think this is probably your good first step. If he doesn't stop, then I think the other advice you've been given to go report him is valid. But learning to stick up for what you want and what you need, particularly what you need. Like, I stand for, a lot. I mean, as autistic and introverted as I am, I still need love, and I need respect, and as a human being. And so, you do too. And, Christianity will strip you of, all you need is God's love, and you can break relationships and tear yourself down and have self-esteem issues because of your religion. And you got to get over that. And part of it is learning to deal with incidents like this. I got to do the same with some things that I do. Hey, dude, I know where you've been at. I don't know, you've been around for at least a half year, and you came here because of these issues and your struggles, and I am happy to help you. Okay. I know what it's like to feel so alone. Like when I first deconverted, I felt so alone. Like there's nobody else going through this but me. And I don't want you to feel that way. And I also want you to start valuing yourself a little bit better now that you're out. So yes, you have to value yourself over their value of their religion. You're very, very welcome. Very, very welcome. Yeah, this is what this channel's about. Thank you, Earl. Well, folks, I got to run. I got to get ready for work. But this was a great conversation. And Triple E, don't think you were dominating the conversation. This is what I do. Okay. I try to help people that are going through this stuff. And so, you're always welcome here. Please keep asking. Yeah, Ronald hits it. Please keep asking. There's a lot of people that care. Okay, here. I've tried to build a community that cares about people, and I know you're working through all the issues. And so, but I'm going to have to peace out, guys. Thank you very much for the stream. Good discussion today. I enjoy doing it. So, but we'll keep rolling. Okay. So, give that like button a smack, give it a shove. As I've pointed out many times, the like button is very easy and very consensual. So there's that. I won't do that. I won't do that. Thank you, John. That was a very good way to end. All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate all of you. As always, live your best life. You only get one go around and then it's over. So you want to take all your time, money, and opportunities and spend them on yourself, the people you love and care for, and to make this a better world. You'll be happier if you do. Don't waste them on the trappings of religion and faith, because that's a dead end. I speak from experience. And as always, thanks for stopping by, and I will catch all of you next time.